All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. We're going to go with officially episode 119 episodes of the podcast already, and we've still got a few to go. We are still working on catching up with everybody from the Dakar Rally, but all the rallies are going on now. Right now, the guys are signed up or getting ready to get started on the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge right back in Saudi Arabia. So looking forward to seeing some of their shenanigans with already Daniel Sanders out and one of the Benavides brothers out. So this is going to be interesting. I got a feeling Skylar is going to put this thing on the top box again. Mason Klein is already out there and getting ready as well. So we'll be keeping up with those guys. But in the meantime, if you guys read or saw the episode title, we are catching up. So if you guys heard a few months back, we had Patrick Reyes of the Coast to Coast Rally on the episode and talking about this rally and what they were doing. Well, it went off. And something a little bit different. I'm very curious to see how this transition was. We're going to be talking with Scotty Bloom of Baja Rally, switching sides from organizer to competitor. So I'm curious to hear the tales and how that was and what it was like. And man, I'm telling you, the pictures that I saw from the West by 1000 folks, yeah, I missed out. But anyway, with that being said, let's talk to Scotty. Scotty there?
Yeah, good afternoon, Victor. Good afternoon.
Welcome. I'm working on fading the party out here nice and slowly. So what is going on? It's a rainy day, man. What happened?
Yeah, finally getting some good water, some good rain out here. Came back from Rally Coast to Coast a week ago after, being down there for 10 days. And excited to fill you in and also let your audience know, all the good things and, some of the bad as well that came out of that. But definitely invigorating. And kind of rejuvenating for the whole rally scene that Patrick and Romina came back. There's that. And there's also that rally unicorn sightings coming out of China that I'd like to talk about also if we have time.
Yeah. Well, that's been a big one. So we'll go right to that one. Because you got back about a week ago, but my understanding is you jumped right back on a bike to go do some riding.
All day yesterday, we had the Kove 450R rally standard. We're the first U.S. journalists to get turned loose on them. So we had all day yesterday out in the desert with Gary from GPX Moto, the importer. It was Rob Dabney from ADV Pulse and me with two of the standard Kove bikes. These are the $9,000 units, the non-pro models. These are the ones that are $5,000 cheaper than the full rally models. Mm-hmm. The ones we tested had ABS brakes and have everything you would need to go out and do a rally raid, except the appendage coming out of the front head tube is not conducive or not engineered to mount a roadbook reader to. So whether you're a digital or a free to ride roadbook reader, we could not mount a roadbook on the bikes we tested yesterday without serious engineering, parts and, a week in the shop. So that was the 1 weak spot. Other than that, these bikes look and perform as similarly to European and Japanese counterparts as you could imagine. We looked very hard and closely for cheap components, things that looked like there was plastic in them. And we learned a ton about the genesis of Kove, what the CEO is doing, and how Kove is different than 50 other Chinese motorcycle manufacturers. There's really a lot of soul in that. and that the story that's coming out in a couple of days from ADV Pulse is chock full of all the background and some of the important points that need to be paid attention to, that kind of get our attention. I mean, the fact that these bikes and the team actually went into Dakar Rally with zero roadbook experience, and that all three of the pilots finished, is a huge, kickstart for Kove, or it's Kove. So might as well at least pronounce the names right. But there's a lot to unpack about this bike, and about whether it's going to be off of the table of discussion in a year, or if these things are actually going to approach some kind of standard where you'll see teams, fly and ride teams, offering these bikes to ride. Mm-hmm. We rode one, and the one that I rode yesterday all day, I put 100 miles on one that had a full 8 gallons of fuel in it when we started. If I could mount a roadbook to that tower that's there, it's a $9,000, ready to rally bike. And, the scary stuff is, Chinese motor going to break down. You can never fix it. That's easy to dispel. But there's, it's going to take months and months to unpack it. We were the first of, a dozen journalists that are going to be riding and comparing these bikes. Mm-hmm. They'll be comparing them to enduro bikes. They'll be comparing them to the actual RFR. It's real important. The first thing we notice, the geometry and all the specs are almost identical replicas of the Rally replica. So the seat height, the travel, the ground clearance, the fuel capacity, all the same as the KTM Rally replica. That doesn't make them a Rally replica, but if you're going to copy something. So these bikes it's basically the fake Rolex of rally bikes. Yeah.
But it seems like the initial impression on these bikes is they're not the initial impression is they're not a throwaway bike, right?
They're not a toy.
Yeah.
This is not a toy.
Yeah. You didn't, throw a leg on it 20 miles later, go, yeah, no. Like it deserves some time on it, like some actual testing on it. It's not automatically ruled out.
So it's fair to say that, Gary mm-hmm. is the name of the gentleman who's been importing, Chinese dirt bikes since 2003, 2004. He knows a lot about China. He's been over there quite a bit. Mm-hmm. He taught us about why Chinese motors are found and motors built and assembled in China are found in bikes from all over the world. Mm-hmm. It's his investment. Gary from GPX Motors is making a bet. It's an educated investment. It's an educated guess that the CEO, Zui, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's a soulful ex-champion motorcycle racer who has these Dakar aspirations, and who, unlike a lot of people with silly Dakar aspirations, they're rooted in reality. And the chairman or CEO of Kove, sent 3. And by the way they found the 3 riders, mm-hmm. they did a tryouts. They did like a meetup. Hey, if you're interested in doing this thing, come and try out. So it's not like they picked from their own stable of people. It was an open to the public, come and try out for the Kove Dakar team.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Which is nice, scary, and crazy at the same time, because what they were signing up for is not, the weekend hare scramble, the weekend sprint race. This is literally 15 full-on off-road races in succession, one after the other. So it's not an easy feat. And the fact that they finished.
Now you can hide. There are a lot of arenas. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of places that you can take a new product and you can conceal the weak points. You can go to a trade show and have a demo days, and the kickstand is breaking, the pegs are breaking, the clutch is failing, and you can conceal that. At a trade show or a demo days, there's a lot of ways to hide the weak spot. But in the Dakar Rally, there is not a lot of ways to hide the Achilles heel or something that is wrong with the bike. And so, we're going to stay, instead of drinking the Kool-Aid, we're going to stay cautiously skeptical, until there's like a year under our belt, or like I have bought one of these and it's, been 10,000, 15,000 miles in Baja. So we're going to be cautiously skeptical, but all the first sniff tests of the Kove bikes and the program, are passing sniff tests. And then the reason is why. So if the chairman he's passionate about being different, and Gary from GPX, the importer who's making the big investment, his take is that he knows most of the motorcycle business people who operate in China are just business people. The only thing that matters is push more product, more margin, more volume, less expense, more profit, push. And this, swimming against the grain is the chairman or CEO from Kove, who has a completely different mindset. And they've had, tens of thousands of units of motorcycles, sold and placed around the world since 2017. And the capacity apparently, and you got to be kind of a little bit, right, Victor? You kind of need to be, a little bit guarded and a little bit, measured in repeating things that you heard, but they're talking about capacity to actually build 1,000 per month of these rally bikes. And the thing that you would be interested in is what Gary tells us is there is a city or a region in China where all the motorcycle manufacturing is taking place, where the big motor factory is, and where the assembly plants are for the different brands. There are dozens and dozens of motorcycle brands in China, but they all are around the same location. And so the reason that you can have a better price point on a Chinese built motorcycle, the first thing you think of is labor, is, it's cheaper labor. But what he really pointed out is that also the supply chain, all of the components manufacturers and all of the parts makers are within a 15-mile radius of the main factories. And so 90% of the parts and the components, the materials that go into making these bikes are coming from the same neighborhood. So it cuts down time and cost in the supply chain. And that's something that we just are starting to learn about. I have a feeling that the first Chinese dirt bike for mass production and mass sale in the U.S. is going to stick. And it's, again, from what we're learning, it's individual at Kove, and then the individual at GPX here in the U.S. is Gary, who we met yesterday. And he's been doing this a while. He's like done toys and he's done throwaway stuff, and he's until now never really found something that he really got excited about. And he is yet to do road book training himself. He's not a road book guy yet. But so that's exciting. And, people will be talking about this Kove thing for, indefinitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they hit it right. Turnkey. You've got a adventure rally bike, right? A ARD, adventure rally bike. Yeah. You have an ARB bike, and then you have an actual rally bike with, like I said, all the tower, all the stuff that you need to go out and be competitive, and right out of the gate, right, the car proven. I mean, you could at least say that, right? That three bikes, three finishers. I mean, that's, for a new manufacturer, I'll say new, but somebody new to this part of this sector, that's, obviously it's impressive. So, but did we get to see anything? Did any of these get down to the coast rally? Did you see any down there?
No, and the ones that we tested are not part of the initial order.
Oh, okay.
So they're more like these were trade show units, and none. They had both of these bikes that we saw yesterday were at the trade show.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them had light riding, but none of them had been really pounded for, hours off road and really been pounded.
Gotcha.
And we pounded them. We took them through the paces. There's a couple things like the suspension in 8 out of 10 environments. The suspension, as we didn't play with it at all with the compression or the rebound on the forks, and they were said to have been just set in the middle for like a 180-pound rider. And in 8 out of 10 applications, the suspension, just as we got it, was workable with full tank of gas. Mm-hmm. We had chatter boards like the heavy washboard that where it was excruciating. And it's, instead of saying, okay, this is junk, well, it's every fork needs to be played with and tinkered with, and that takes discipline. You want to ride your new dirt bike, and you don't want to, get in a controlled, whoop environment where you're going back and forth and doing single click adjustments and, like out at chalk testing in Plaster City. Mm-hmm. So, they're awesome. A couple of things that you'll find on these things: you have this quick release seat, gets you access to the filter and the battery. You could take the fairing off and move the fairing and pull it away within like 10 seconds. Just a little 6 quick release pens. All the stuff in it was quality. The discs, the levers, the shifting. You could find neutral real easy. You cruise at 70 miles an hour in 5th gear. On a straight, flat highway, sitting down, the windshield's doing its job. You're getting, some wind relief. If you stand up, it's not the same, because I just came off of 5 days on a 501 Husky that had a Sonora tower from Rally Moto Shop that did more to block the wind. But the Kove thing, it's bitching. For me as one, I have to get over the I hate China or China, all China bad, thing. I kind of have already done work to get over that for other reasons. And, I think 80% of the rally community and the target audience, for this bike are already over it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a part of that is because it's become so common, right? Every time they bag on somebody, I draw the Continental TKC 80. Everybody, there's a lot of people that swore by that tire, and then they would, well, yeah, see, you got a Shinko, that's why it blew up. And then everything was fine and dandy until somebody spilled the beans and let everybody basically, yeah, your TKC 80 is made in the same place. So it's not, so don't clown on it. And I think that's part of the reason right now. It's just the exposure to the two products from that region has gone up. And then every time they think that there's something, new and out of Austria or another manufacturer, it's like, no, we're building it here, under a certain design and a certain set of rules. But at the same time, it's still being manufactured in a place where a lot of people are in a region where a lot of people have a biased opinion towards. So I'm glad to see. I think you're right. I think a lot of I could see this being a fly and ride bike for sure. Price point, I think, just right off the bat is there. Probably going to be a lot easier to get a hold of than the Austrian counterpart. So obviously with a price tag that's a little bit more budget friendly for something like that.
Yeah, we're finding that the 70 units of KTM 450 Rally Replica, it's impossible. And certain people that should be able to buy that bike just can't. Mm-hmm. And so they have to go to Mexico to buy from, Carlos Gracida directly on a secondhand purchase. And so Gary from, GPX Moto, he's identified the void and, starting to backfill the vacuum that people do have the demand for these. So before we pivot away, the $9,000 450R Rally, for a rider in the 5'6" range of height, can take this bike and make it their new KLR. They can make this bike the new 701. They could take this bike and replace the 250 CRF 250 L Rally, or the 300 Rally, like that Norley rides. So for the guys who aren't tall or big, and the riders who aren't too tall and big, I mean, this is going to be a starter. And it's going to be basically a platform for an adventure bike. You could put, and you can't go like tight trail riding or single tracking or enduro riding on these bikes. The low pipe, the wide skid plate, which is really nice. It's a carbon, super wide carbon skid plate. It looks almost as wide as your 790 skid plate. It's, but they can't. You can't go single tracking on this bike. It's going to jack up the pipe, and that skid plate is too cumbersome for doing that tight technical stuff. Big foot riders with a big size 12 boot, and you can get your boot stuck in between where the pipe is and the rear tank on a dab. I dabbed a little bit with my right foot and got scared there for a minute. Both sides also. But, it's, we've got a lot more to hear from these guys, and the noise it's going to get very noisy, I believe.
Good. Well, that's cool. I'm glad for the growth of the sport. I'm glad to see that, that's going to be happening. But I mean, and speaking of growth of the sport, 5 years out on the coast to coast rally. We were talking about rallies and
yeah,
dude,
so a little bit of background. Rally Coast to Coast is really the first ever rally in Mexico. I mean, they go way back. They go back to like 2005, 2004, 2008 and 9. Patrick Reyes and Romina with their old partner Hernan, they were doing the Red Bull Coast to Coast, which was really like an enduro ride. And like the biggest one they did, I think, was in, 2004, 2005, 2006. But that was more enduro. They went to full road book in 2009, I believe, and generally taking the same route. It's from the city of Veracruz in the state of Veracruz, and it goes through 3 states, generally the same adventure route, similar to like a Ensenada to Cabo, where it's just a similar route, similar towns that are conducive to off-roading. And but they took some time away. And this year, although it was a comeback year, it was not their biggest field. I think they had a total of 52 athletes, including the UTV and also a rally maxi or maxi rally, kind of a hybrid pseudo adventure class. So I think there was 52 participants. Rally Pro had like 12 or 14 entries, I think. Rally One is, they had a guy in there, young guy that Blue Minds. He was a younger guy from Laos who was a really interesting guy that we can maybe talk about him. But they're back. And so part of why Romina and Patrick, their third leg, Hernan, is out in Switzerland, and he had his hands full of some other stuff. So what Patrick did is they partnered with a guy named Mario Mendoza. Mario's out of Mexico City. He's one of our Baja Rally clients, and we know him from Baja Rally, but he's just a really extroverted organizer who's got a background in doing triathlons and golf tournaments and, all kinds of events. He brought Quaker State and Jeep and Red Bull, and he bought a lot of big sponsors into the Coast to Coast Rally, Coast to Coast. And I mean, like, there wasn't a bivouac or a start line or a finish line where you wouldn't see a Red Bull cooler filled with ice and all the Red Bulls that you could drink. And so we were pinging on the free Red Bulls all week long. But so they're back, and so they have some new. So it's highly organized. You know, they were highly structured in the inspection and the registration process. And Patrick also brought in Mario Mendoza's son-in-law, James Jaime, and so they have a team of 4. And so Patrick does his thing, and he's not having to wear every hat, which is good. And especially in mid-rally, we had like a tragedy that we could touch on that because of that, Patrick and Romina and the whole organization was able to survive and get through that and move forward from that.
Nice. Yeah, it is unfortunate to hear about that and what happened, and I caught wind of it. But yeah, I mean, we'll touch on it briefly because of course we want to take away all the safety stuff that we can out of that particular situation. But so that was kind of your. Go ahead.
Well, I've done 3 of these, so this was my 3rd one, and the role I took going into it was to be I couldn't finish the last one because of a mechanical on the marathon stage. It was a little heartbreaking, a little disappointing, but I saw this opportunity with Freedom Rally investing in rally by going down there with a team of 5 riders. You had a couple of customers and then a couple of VIPs. You have Mike Johnson as renting a KTM rally replica and doing a fly-in ride and keeping hands off of Rally Comp while he was down there. So Rally Comp had its own independent staff, and so that Mike Johnson, the founder and head honcho at Rally Comp, could do what he wants to do. He could race. Unfortunately, he had his own accident on the second day, and decided to take himself out and go home for evaluation. He broke his tailbone and got his bell rung a little bit, like slight concussion, but he was able to take himself out of the rally and fly home, leaving the Rally Comp team back to administer that part of the event. So with Freedom Rally, their bivouac setup looked awesome. So there were 6 bikes in total. I was the 6th bike, and so I asked to be placed on the team as a service rider with the intention of you have 5 like team rider customers that need to finish this race. And wouldn't it be nice if you had a 6th rider who was not there to compete, but who was really there to be the water boy and to, in the event that someone needed a part, a wheel or some assistance, a tow, anything that could help them finish every day, then I want to sign up to be that guy. And the owner, Robert Mann, he looked at an outline and said, I like this and this makes sense. So it didn't come true that we saved someone's race for them, but it was close. So Dan Bart from SoCal Rally, he is a Freedom Rally customer. He's riding a 450 EXC from Freedom Rally, and he crashed in front of me at kilometer 5 or 6 and had taken himself out with a broken collarbone, pretty badly broken collarbone. Yeah. So my job is, I will stay with you now. I will stop racing and stay with you now. And he said, no, you won't. You will keep going. So Mike Georgeson from Montana Mike, he was the ringleader of the Freedom Rally team. And so he was calling out the commands. And so I was actually riding under his direction. He said, hey, tomorrow's the first day. You can just do your own thing. And so I did my own thing and was able to, start well. Mike Johnson and I finished 1 and 2 on the first day, and we started 1 and 2 on the second day. And from there, I just generally fell back into my normal pattern of being that guy who's not going to be a front runner. And but I managed to help Etienne, and his pronunciation of his last name is skipping me, but the French guy, big guy, he's a Sonora entrant and a hopeful at Baja Rally. Etienne, forget his last name, but I helped him and stayed with him and was ready to DNF with him until we got the call from Mike Georgeson on stage 2. It's okay, continue, Scotty, and so that the team could gain the number. But really, it worked really well. The coordination and Robert Mann, the owner, wasn't on hand. Scott Spears, like the tech guru from Freedom Rally, he wasn't there. But the 2 mechanics that Freedom Rally had, who were working all the time, always had their uniform on. The setup in the bivouac looked amazing, and a lot of Mexican riders were coming up asking for how do they get signed up for Sonora or for Baja Rally, riding under the team of Freedom. It's got to be said, though, that also Poncho from Diaz Pro Racing was there, 3 riders, all customers, and all of those customers are fiercely loyal and will only work with Poncho. Poncho's got the same, determination and commitment to getting the bikes, ready and that they're going to finish. And so he was showing that. He was never seen, hanging around or doing anything around the bivouac, always working.
Nice. Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, and I ran into a few of their guys over in Sonora. They had split duty. They had a couple of bikes there, rental bikes for some of the students. But I mean, it seems like the big thing is that Freedom Rally, I mean, kind of came up and has been doing this fly and ride thing. I think they got a pretty good recipe going. This is what I think their 4th event. 3rd or 4th event?
But it looked like the 40th. Nice. They had a mechanic named Brett. I'm not sure of his last name. Younger guy, very intelligent, always committed. And then they had Slade Robinson. So Slade Robinson is Mike Georgeson's very close friend from New Mexico, who's just kind of got into rally, just being friends with Mike Georgeson. Well, Slade is the guy who was Nora Lee's dedicated mechanic and coach for her Baja Rally and her whole buildup for Baja Rally. And so those 2 mechanics were turning heads. I mean, all of they were always working. They had 6 bikes between the 2 of them. And after the 3rd day, they were down to 4 bikes between the 2 of them. All 4 bikes finished. We all finished. But just like that, Robert Mann and his vision with Scott Spears and what they're trying to do, it follows just like these simple criteria. It's professional, it's organized, there's a manifest. There was a Mexican rider had a 701 that was failing in the clutch. The Mexican rider with the failing clutch was going around to every mechanic, and it didn't matter which mechanic. And he came to Brett at Freedom Rally and said, I have this 501, the clutch is failing, or it's a 701. The clutch is failing. And so the mechanic said, had this bike been sitting idle for a long time? And he said, in fact, it has since all of COVID. His bike's been sitting for 3 years. And he said, the clutch O-ring will deteriorate if the chemicals in the oil sits idle. There's going to be, and it's going to eat away and corrode or erode the O-ring. And that's your problem. And the guy said, well, do you have one? And so Brett from Freedom Rally said, let me refer to the manifest. And he pulls out like a printed document that's the manifest of every single part that's on that truck and trailer. And he said, yep, sure enough, we have that. That's in tray 5 and drawer 10 and bin 15. Let's go get it. And he pulls it out. Now that rider was thankful he got his O-ring, but he signed right up. So he's like, if you've got a manifest.
Yeah.
You got it's so highly regimented that you have a manifest for every part that you have on that truck. That's an indication. And so hats off to Robert. You know, they don't need my help, or I don't think anyone else's, man. They're on the field, or they're on the boards, you know, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. And I mean, and you're right. I mean, just the fact that, you know, I mean, I've seen it in Baja. I've seen it all over the place where, you know, it's like, I've seen it in my own garage. I know I bought that thing. I know it's somewhere here. You know, 6 drawers later, you know, you're still looking for the part. And so, yeah, and I've seen their rig. The rig they have is impressive, to say the least. You know, that thing is awesome. And yeah, to be able to have all of those parts and you know, maintain 6 bikes at any given moment, you know, that is definitely a good job. And it's awesome to see them traveling to all of these events. I mean, they're based back east, so to make it all the way down to Veracruz, you know, this is, yeah.
It was heavy. And there was also, let's see, what else? The gelling of the team, the 6 bikes. Mm-hmm. The only person that we had from Mexico is Fernando Pascual. He's a 34-year-old data analyst who's also a former enduro champion of Mexico. It was his first rodeo at Rally, and he was, you know, a real favorite. Finished the rally, but just had one bad luck on one day. But all of the team there, everyone was gelling. It's like Willem Avenant, Dan Bart, you know, Dan Bartolucci, you know, Mike Johnson, me. You know, you had Etienne, and then, there's 6 of us. But out of the 6 riders, 4 of us are all roadbook, like master roadbook creators. Mike Johnson, Dan Bartolucci, Willem Avenant, and then me. And it was just like an awesome ambassadorship, an awesome envoy, you know, kind of like a trip to overseas to do bridge building. And for sure, Baja Rally and Sonora Rally are going to benefit from the work that was done. And, you know, that Patrick has got a new organization and a new flow, and Romina could focus on what they do best. And it's a very successful event overall, despite the fact that we got this message on stage 3. Mm-hmm. Most of us had finished the special and we're working our way back to Ciudad, Oaxaca. And the rally comp just sent a universal message, said, stop racing, work your way through waypoints to WPE 197. So it's a message that someone at Race Ops put together, and we didn't know what to make of it. We were done racing. When I got back into the bivouac, you know, I parked the bike, and this is standard. If you're flying and riding, you're not really a factory pilot, okay? But they're going to keep treating you as though you are a factory pilot. You bring your bike back, you can disappear. No one, if you're not the guy that's going to help spray down or help wash up or help clean the bike or help maintenance or service or do stuff. You're just the guy that disappears. Mm-hmm. That's perfectly acceptable. But before I did that, my mechanic Slade, who's like I would give an organ to Slade. You know, everyone in my family first, and then Slade is next up in line to receive a kidney or a liver. He pulled me aside and said, you need to know, I'm not sure if you heard, a rider died today. And I said, I didn't know. And he said, the families don't know, and there's no posting and no talking about it. Wait for the organizer, Scotty. And that's great. Perfect. Yeah. So a lot of speculation and like, oh, he went off a cliff, he hit a thing, this and that. And then we were able to get to the bottom of it. It was Chucho, and it's basically Jesus Leon, the distributor. He's basically a dealer, Sports Cycle KTM, mm-hmm. Mexico City guy, big in Valle de Bravo. It's he's a multi-line motorcycle dealer, Ducati KTM, really well-liked guy. No young kids, divorced with a second wife, passed away in a single vehicle racing accident. So what that means for folks at home, no collision, no fixed object. So he didn't hit a tree, didn't hit a pole, didn't hit a car, single vehicle racing accident. The hypothesis is probably looking down at the road book, a little distracted at speed, in the shade, missing a concrete gutter or an obstacle that was obscured by the shade, and just came off the bike. Etienne, our team rider from Freedom Rally, is the second rider. Dane that was riding on the big guy from the Pacific Northwest who was riding on Diaz Pro, was the first guy to arrive, and he was bleeding. There wasn't much they could do. Apparently, it was either a handlebar end or some kind of an end went into his torso, and he had heavy bleeding. But it stopped this incident stopped the organization in its tracks, because once they got word, they had to deploy and send every bit of resource to that scene, because they didn't have a DOA. They didn't have Chucho as, oh, he's already expired. And so they go into life-saving mode, and they need to just deploy and send all the resources to that event site. That's the reason they called into headquarters to say, send a message out and stop racing. They ended up tossing the stage that day, which was, we weren't sure that was the decision they would make, but they tossed that stage. And, Victor, Patrick Reyes came into the riders' meeting sobbing. And it was really difficult. He's not prepared and cut out for doing both things. Yeah. Real compassionate, gentle person. And he could barely keep his marbles together, just explaining what had happened and what the plan was going forward. They did a moment of silence. They did a big applause thing, and then hand out road books. And what would Chucho want to do? What would he expect? And so I was dining with his friends, Mauricio Santana, Sergio Lopez, the guys that were really close with him. And it's like they were in shock, but what would we do? So Victor, the next morning, wake up and we go racing. And that stage happened to be the fastest, safest, funnest thing that I've ever done with Patrick and Romina in Mexico. But it was how we rebounded from it was because it wasn't involving a civilian, because it wasn't involving multiple people, because it wasn't involving, an animal or a fixed object, because it was single vehicle racing accident, it was possible to move on from it and to continue racing.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the, I received a couple of messages about it, and there was a conversation, and I can only imagine, with the friends and everybody being there and how difficult it was at that time, to be able to do it. And now, I mean, it's not like it just changes. And I learned so much about him right after this happened, and the reach that he had, all of the people that he knew and all of that stuff. And, I guess the thing, like I told him, was the only thing you can hold on to is that he was in the middle of nowhere, doing rally, riding a motorcycle, doing exactly what he loved. And it was just, unfortunately, it was that time. And it sucks, when we're not ready, but sometimes we don't get a choice. But best we could do is say we were doing something we loved.
Yeah, and you could spin it positively in all kinds of directions, 12 ways to put a more positive spin on it. If the fatality had been a child that was playing, 500 meters away from their village, that's going to be a whole different ball game. There's a lot of us that would just go home from that.
Yeah.
If something like that happens, I'm probably going home. Mm-hmm. I probably would have to hang something up in that, in that scenario. Mm-hmm. But Mauricio Santana, who ended up getting third overall, in Rally Pro, he's a Baja Rally regular, and he's like the Mexico City, mainstay. And we haven't really hit on the big headline news yet, but Mauricio Santana really close with Chucho, the rider who passed away, and Mauricio was back and racing at full speed again the next day, and enough to keep him up in the standings. And he's a great rider. Yeah. We forgot to mention that. Okay, so in Rally Coast to Coast, for the first time ever, Baja steals the cup, and so Oswaldo Lara, depending how you want to pronounce it, is the guy that did really well in Rally 1. I think he won Rally 1 at Baja Rally. Mm-hmm. He's a single track guy from Collinet, and they stole the cup from the territory that's marked by the Mexico City and Valle de Bravo enduro gang, down in Mexico. So it's kind of like it's territorial. So when you had, Oswaldo Lara from Baja winning the overall at Coast to Coast Rally, and then Willem Avenant from South Africa in his first Rally Pro appearance, because Willem, podiumed at Baja Rally and Rally 1, and so now he's stuck as far as Coast to Coast and Baja Rally. We share almost identical rule books. If you get third or better in Rally 1, you're now stuck in Pro. So Willem Avenant, the big orange man, the guy that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now in Rally, he goes out and gets second place in Rally Pro, his first appearance. And so it's a real shakeup. And so I think that the Rally Coast to Coast, the field was a little lighter than Patrick and Romina are used to. But I think for next time around, there's going to be more of the older familiar clients of Coast to Coast that are going to be signing up to do their part to bring the cup back. It may seem like a little thing, but if you know how the Mexican in mainland, if you know how their pride is and their thing, they don't want Baja, like a different country. They don't want Baja taking the cup away from them. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's also a positive thing. But Oswaldo rode his ass off, and also a fan favorite, like he was at Baja Rally, a real big fan favorite, and among his peers at Coast to Coast. And the icing on the cake is Oswaldo Lara crosses the finish line in Puerto Escondido, and there's his wife, his daughter, his mother-in-law, and his father are all there to surprise him, and just to be there that he's at the race, but he won the whole thing. Francisco Septién, he's a two-time Ironman score champion, and he's had his name on at least 10 score motorcycle championships as a rider, not a rider of record, but as a member of a team. Septién has had, more than a dozen score championships under his belt. He was there. He was a co-driver for a UTV. Mm-hmm. That was big that Septién was there. Francisco Vera is from El Rosario, is a quad guy. You know who Francisco Vera is? He's real popular among Baja, enduro rider. I think it's Vera. It's Vera or Vara. It's Francisco Vera. And he was there. And his eyes were open. He was also a UTV co-driver. And those guys are shoe-ins for Baja Rally for sure, for their first, and you'll also see a couple of quads at Baja Rally for the first time.
About time. There's enough of them in Baja. They should all have road books on them and go ride something different. It's funny. I've brought that idea up to a few different people. I'm like, what about getting a quad and just setting up a quad for rally? And there's, it's the typical, dirt biker versus quad guy kind of, they each have opinions of each other, and it's kind of gang related, I think, but but it's about their sport growing. So that is one thing I got to say. I think a little bit of salt on the wound, though. I'm just going to not kind of maybe just a little bit there. This is Lara's second rally, right? Trained with Poncho, went out and kicked ass at Baja Rally, and then literally just went into the motherland, into mainland Mexico, and won their rally down there. So. Yeah,
and that's what people should pay attention to, because other, accomplished riders who they get afraid of speaking French or carrying a kitchen sink on your handlebars. You got to look at someone like Oswaldo, who's like sworn, loves the format, loves the navigation part of it, and he's flourishing. There is video footage out there of him and Mike Johnson. For the people that are listening that understand rally comp and know what opening a waypoint is. Well, Mike and Oswaldo were riding together. Translation, Oswaldo's chasing Mike. Mike is opening. So Mike is opening on stage 2, and they get stuck 2 or 3 times. And on the third time, they pull their hand and fist out as they're doing rock, paper, scissors. And it's from Oswaldo's helmet cam. Okay, let's open a waypoint. Are you ready? Let's rock, paper, scissors. On just for one try, not 2 out of 3. It's just, we'll do rock, paper, scissors one time.
One for the
loses,
money.
That's the guy that's going to open the waypoint. It's so cool. And you can see Mike say, you ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. And Mike goes to hand Oswaldo to scissors. Yeah, Mike loses, shouts out an obscenity, and then opens the waypoint, and then off they go. It's really cool. It's really cool because Mike has been operating on that, I think, when collaborating out on the course. Hey, if we're riding together, we decide we have to open, let's Rochambeau or rock, paper, scissors for it. Yeah. Which was a cool thing. But something else I want to say about the coast to coast is they don't have it as good as we do in Baja. Mm-hmm. They don't have as much open space. There's either forests and trees and jungles and impassable terrain. They don't have a lot of open plains in that center of Mexico, such as why they have that Coahuila 1000.
Yeah.
That race is in a different region of Mexico where it's more like Baja, and then you can move around some more. The route and the general course for coast to coast is confined. And so there's tons of villages, tons of speed zones, and we had to relearn how to do rally racing this time. Mm-hmm. The stages, the specials were shorter, and the transfers were deep in navigation. And so unlike a Baja Rally or a Sonora Rally transfer that's just like this much pavement and then you're a little bit of off-road and then you're ready to start, all of these transfers had navigation, and all of the waypoints and speed zones were cumulative for your score. So if you're on a transfer after your special and you miss a stop sign or you ride around a waypoint and miss it, you're getting penalized on your whole time. It was hard to absorb that initially. It was hard to like unpack that. Wait, I'm racing on a special. I'm done racing, and then I want to go to the bivouac. I've got to do 2.5 hours of navigation, technical riding. Mm-hmm. They could have easily made it easier, but they made it hard, and it was hard. I exerted more energy and effort on the transfers than I did on the specials. Mm-hmm. And there was a transfer on stage 2 where you had 3.5 miles, 3 solid miles of silt that was over your front wheel. So you had, 2 foot deep silt that is burying the front wheel. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was a chore. It was actually wrecking a couple of bikes. And, now I understand why that's part of the deal. And I just really hope that if they do it again next year, that they would go around something like that would damage bikes. Yeah. But even with that was like the hardest part, behind the fatality was the difficulty of the transfers, the length of the transfers, and then the speed zones. Their road books, they had some errors in the road books that set the scoring off on a negative side from day one. Mm-hmm. Most people didn't seem to mind terribly that the scoring and the timing and scoring the results were delayed, and the final results they're going to come out probably while we're out recording this right now. That was like the only weak spot, and it's something that's easy to repair and to fix. And so instead of blaming scoring difficulties on third parties or on some outside thing. I like how Patrick Reyes, got up after day one and just owned that the organization owned what was going on and, didn't deflect any of that. And, I'm sure when they resume and have their next rally that they will have everything extremely tight.
Yeah.
And, we could go further and unpack that, but it's a moot point.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, the big thing is, the big takeaways from that is that it was realized what it was. The correction was noted, like, okay, yeah, this is the fix. And more importantly, that there was no finger pointing. It was just straight up, hey, it is what it is. Here's the game plan. And all right, next, I think that's important, on that side of things, because it is difficult. I mean, and this is like, from what I understand, and seen is it doesn't take much. It's just, one small overstep, one small thing. And it has a ripple effect, on these events only because there's so many moving pieces. So
yeah, change the road book or put something new in the road book after your final test. And, that you're just asking for complications. And so, they recovered.
They recovered. So tell me a little bit more about the stages. Now, my understanding is they had a marathon stage this year.
Yeah, similar. And it's the second to last. And so it's the reason why they decided to throw out the results from stage 3. In a lot of rallies in Willem, you have like Willem Avenant, who's a student of rally history, and he's like a participant. And you take someone like Kyle McCoy, who's like the almanac or the Wikipedia for Dakar rally history. A lot of times if there's a fatality in like the Africa Eco Race or the Hellas Rally, the organizer will spend the next day on a non-timed. And they say, we had a fatality today. We're keeping today's results. The deceased is, their family's been contacted. That's all being attended to. Tomorrow, we're going to take the day off. You are going to participate and ride, but you are not going to be timed and scored. Gotcha. And I've seen that in several rallies where the following day would be a day of remembrance, and it's ceremonial. We're going to, navigate through the special stage, but you're not going to be timed and you're not going to win anything. And it's a way to slow people down. It's a way to let the faster guys just take the day off and, kind of like let them digest what happened. They couldn't do that in this event because if they would have taken day 4 off on the way up to the marathon, 1, that's the best stage of the rally, and 2, the last stage special was only 17 kilometers. It was a sprint down the beach, and notably, it was a ceremonial thing. You can't gain a spot. I mean, it's really hard to gain a spot in 17 kilometers. And it's pretty easy to lose a spot in 17 kilometers, as a few guys did come off their bikes in the fast beach section. So that's the thinking behind that, the marathon stage. And so the marathon was a true marathon. No support trucks were allowed in the bivouac. They were allowed to pass through the town. They had to pass through the town. It's called San Jose del Pacifico. It's a magical place in the mountains up above Puerto Escondido. It's a psychedelic place. There's magic mushroom culture all over this town and the village. It's like said to be like the first place of use of psilocybin mushrooms from like 5,000 years ago. And so it's a tourist attraction. You saw a lot of Euro chicks walking around with their fanny packs on forward and their backpacks facing the front way up in the mountains. It stand out. They were sticking out like a sore thumb. A lot of couples, a lot of old ladies, cruising around in the village. Our bivouac was tucked away, in the woods, in this big open sprawling grassy area with eco cabanas and some of the best food that it's like looks like a quesadilla, but it's on a giant like flour tostada with bean spread and some beef and onion. It was like a kind of a taco or something. and crickets, and they were serving up these marinated insects, and people were going nuts over them. It was really good. So we had great food at San Jose del Pacifico and the marathon. The 65-kilometer special stage en route to the marathon was fast and fun and flat. It looked like a different kind of Mexico. You saw the blue agaves. It's like the heart of Oaxaca and agave land. It was, really thoughtful. I mean, the way you would make a perfect rally stage in this environment, short of dunes and off-piste stuff, it's just fast, flat, 2-track trails with grassy covered, not traveled, some tricky navigation, but just really smooth and fast and fun. And then the hard part was coming after the marathon. The second, it's basically the last day, we wake up and we've got to navigate for 3 hours through 1,700 S-turn switchbacks. So we're doing Jungle Mountain, Oaxaca mountains, like going over 3 different mountain passes, literally thousands of turns.
Yeah.
And navigating the whole thing in like speed zones as well. It was a challenge and a tricky navigation just to arrive at the start of the special. But like judging from the after party, and then like the Canadians, we had Rome Haloftis and Lance Webb. They drove all the way from Canada through Baja, and they made like a 3-week or a 4-week trip out of the whole thing. They were super happy, and like the Americans that were there, in all of the riders meeting, Victor, everything was in Spanish. There were not enough Americans to hold like duplicate riders meetings. And so it was Patrick doing the all the meetings in Spanish, and then he would have to do like a private meeting with Willem and Mike and I, and that we could convey that to there was only like 7 Americans or non-Spanish speakers that were there.
Yeah. Well,
racing.
Well, that was this year. Hopefully for next year. I mean, it's great. Right, North America and Mexico has gained another rally event, or not gained, but it's back, right? And so that is huge. The landscapes, like I mentioned in the intro, is like the pictures that I saw from Justin from West by 1000 out there, just absolutely epic. I mean, literally on the first day when he showed a picture or shared a picture of one of the cabanas that they had there, kind of like in the forest. And I was like, well, I screwed up.
Yeah, those were super
I'm in the
nice.
wrong
and
place.
Those guys, Justin and Kira from West by 1000, the media company, they did a great job being there and doing what they needed to do. But at the right moment, when Chucho passed away, it was Kira who was like the eyes and ears for Romina and Patrick, and said, you're going to need to get in front of this thing. You're going to need to make a good statement. You're going to need to do that right now. And of course, because Patrick and Romina are close with Chucho and they have to deal with the family and deal with all of that, they're not in a place to do that. And so Kira, hats off to her for having the forethought to tell him that, and to herself get in front of it and to draft a long press release that basically explained it's not what you would think. It's not what you think. It's not this is Mexico. It's unsafe. It's wild. It's chaotic. This was a single vehicle racing accident. And her work in doing that is pretty much, did a lot to preserve the rally, I think. And, everyone who read that and everyone that was there could kind of see that, and it's all in English too. It's basically to keep the keyboard warriors at bay from like speculating on negligence or malfeasance or neglect or, some other thing. And instead of getting right down to it, the guy had an accident and he crashed himself and passed away.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was important. And I remember reading that press release, and it was very, moving, touching, well worded. I mean, I've been a fan of Kira's writing style, and that's, to me, is probably like one of the single most hardest things to write. And I think she did a very, very good job of it. And I did not know that she had approached Romina and Patrick about that. But totally agree. You don't want to leave it to speculation, because, man, the internet does love to run wild with things from, people 50,000 miles away and have exactly zero clue of what actually happened, could have happened, and they'll take it and run with it, and that's what sucks. But I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, it's because neither of her nor the other American racers had an attachment to Chucho, and it wasn't like that we were, personally grieving, and so like that give us the bandwidth to either continue racing or, like in Kira's case, is to get in front of the, the speculation stuff and boil it right down. And so, for Baja Rally being there just with our eyes, we learned also from the event of how we will, if that scenario inevitably comes to us, and the variations of the scenario, multiple victims, civilians, that type of thing. So we're really observant. We picked up a lot, from the trip. Nice. Try not to, sell while we're down there. But I tell you, man, if you're listening to this thing and you've got your own dirt bikes and you're going to go to a rally, Sonora or wherever, you can do it. You can trailer your bike. You can put your bike and you can transport your own bike. You can wrench on your own bike. You can bring a mechanic. You can do all that stuff. And you can have unlimited resources, and, you can do it. You can do it by yourself. I don't think it's possible to do any better, okay, than a fly and ride on a late model, like totally prepped rally bike that's of your choosing, 450, 501, 450 replica. You can't do better than having a fly and ride situation for the one thing alone of just not having to touch your bike.
Yeah.
If you're a control freak, which I know a few, they could afford fly and ride, but choose to just do their own thing. For 8 out of 10 riders, fly and ride, it's impossible to do better on your own. If you want a good result and have the highest odds of finishing higher up on the rankings, the fly and ride thing allows you to focus on nutrition and rest and your body and your riding, and you completely forget about your equipment and your machine. I went out before bed. I'm like, well, I might as well fill my water thing up before bed. And I drugged myself out to the pits, and I found my water thing was already filled up for me.
Yeah.
It's so first class. I mean, that every kind of hammer nutrition thing you could possibly want. The food area in the VIP riders lounge was always stocked, and you had, okay, you like pistachios? Okay, we'll save you the time. They're nutted pistachios. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The top of the line, huge bags of beef jerky, the huge nuts. You could fill your bags up with stuff. They just didn't spare a single expense.
Yeah.
And, I needed a seat replacement. Okay, there's a seat. You're fine. You got a new seat. Here's the tire on Slade's bike, came used and was gone by the time we started the marathon. It's like, oh, we have a tire. Yeah, we're just going to put a wheel on for you, Scott. So I had a brand new wheel. And, I didn't get any, and I don't deserve any more special treatment than anyone else under that tent. And I didn't receive any extra special treatment from Mike Georgeson or Slade or the mechanics than anyone else did. Everybody under the tent was getting the same treatment. Do you have your sleeping bag for the marathon stage? Do you have a mattress? Do you have a pillow? Okay, let's make sure you have all that stuff. They just didn't miss a single thing, from picking you up at the airport to booking the VIP table at the awards ceremony. They were on top of every little thing. And, sounds like an advertisement. You know, I didn't get paid to do the thing. I actually signed up to sacrifice my own race, which it never came to that.
Yeah.
You know, but it was just like, I don't think I'll go back to race in the same, in coast to coast in the same capacity. But I may do a support ride and with the intention of just finish last every day.
Okay. I mean, you know, just from the sounds of it and what you experienced, I mean, I've seen it from the outside. I've been present at, you know, one of the events and where they're at, and see their bivouac setup and stuff like that. And it's awesome. And the wrenches, you know, Scott Spears, Mike Georgeson, all those guys, you know, everybody, you know, puts in a good effort. Everybody is really cool, right? There's no dicks on the team, which is something that also contributes to it, because with the limited, you know, outside looking and rally experience that I bring, or that I have, is I know they're long days, and mental fatigue, physical fatigue, is a bad combination. So to have somebody there to back it up and handle, you know, something as simple as filling up, you know, your water bag, you know, just building up to the fact of, okay, I got to get out of bed, or, you know, I really want to lay down, but I'm going to have to walk all the way down there. I'm going to have to go find water. I'm going to have to, you drown in a cup of water if you had a bad day. And just having somebody to handle the simple things like that is going to be huge. So it's awesome.
You know, what I noticed is the mechanics, they were enjoying themselves, but, you know, they were also, you know, they never saw their hotels until like 10 or 11 at night. You know, they were roadies. So they doubled as roadies, like unpacking, you know, equipment and setting up the bivouac, setting up the easy ups, getting the bikes on the stands, getting everything. You know, they never, they were always hard at work, but they always seemed to be enjoying themselves. It didn't ever seem like a chore. Mm-hmm. Oh, we have this problem. The road book thing's not working and connected. You might have to just replace it. And Slade went into that with like, okay, that's what we do. And let's just, you know, let's do that. But all fly and ride, you know, and then also too, it's like Robert Mann and the Freedom Rally Fly and Ride program, they can learn a few things from Poncho, mm-hmm. you know, and Poncho can learn a few things from them. It's like a new era of like the next 10 years, and like the influencers and the torch bearers of the rally movement. You know, I mean, there are many, you know, it's like Darren Skilton, you have, you know, Robert Mann, Mike Johnson with Rally Comp, you know, Mike Georgeson is like looking for stuff. A huge torch bearer is Willem Avenant. And now in this next generation, in the generation that's coming, there's no bullshit, and there's going to be no bickering and infighting and like cliques and clubs and like the cool kids versus these new kids. None of that shit is going to fly going forward. And if you go look back at off-road racing in Baja, or, you know, score racing and quad racing and skateboarding and surfing, there's little bickering and there's like factions and little cliques and the cool gang. None of that stuff is present right now. And for all the way up to the media companies, the organizers, rally comps, you know, your participants, your fast pros, your influencers. Nobody's going to tolerate that faction stuff, and people are only going to follow the leaders that are more into the growing the community and more into expansion and multiplication, mm-hmm. as opposed to division and like the cool kids and screw those guys. It's just it's refreshing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that with exactly what you said, with Robert, with more events popping up, the school's going, everything's pointing. Even, you know, even as something as what we started off earlier talking with, you know, the availability of a rally bike from Kove here stateside, you know, a rally bike, go buy it, run it, and tinker with it and do all of these things. Because I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, even it's like any other bike with maybe the people identify or make up shortcomings. They're still going to make parts for it. They're still going to end up tweaking it. They're still going to end up personalizing it. So, but just the fact that you can get your hands on a rally bike now and make it just that much easier. You feel it's not an adapted bike. It's literally a rally bike. So all of these things are growing and pointing towards that it's going to continue to expand. And I see it. I get messages. I get people that are curious. They want to learn. They want that recipe. Okay, what do I do next? What's the next, what are the next steps? And all of that information is getting out there, so I agree. I think the next 10 years, and then coupled with, the Americans doing well out in the international rally scene, they have a lot more people that are looking. I saw Skylar Howes working on road books in his local area, beginner road books, to allow people, like, here is somebody that's literally podiumed the Dakar, won a rally, done all of this stuff, and has years of experience taking time out of his day to create some beginner road books. That's, there's a lot, there's a lot.
There's another thing that along those lines, the ARO guys.
Yeah.
So I heard from Ace on your recent episode. I'm close with David Pearson. These are two guys that their leadership and their examples that they set, they're winners. Okay. And so I'm an adult. I'm a grown man. I've been through a lot of cycles. I'm a businessman. I look at someone like David Pearson. Also, I look at, Kyle. He's very soft-spoken, understated. And I look at Ace Nielsen. Okay, so those three guys, at least those three guys, and Jim Pearson too, but Ace Nielsen and David Pearson, these are giants. And the dignity that these guys display on losing properly, okay? They succeeded at failing, okay? So they didn't succeed at finishing the Dakar. They failed at that goal, okay? So in the midst of their failure, they have a stiff upper lip, they keep their chin up, and they act with dignity, and they basically, don't point fingers, they don't go down a tailspin, they don't have a meltdown. And that, to me, is like a very, it's a subtle, it could be a subtle, observation, but they failed. Okay. I'm sorry, Ace, but you crashed and you hurt yourself and you got taken out. You're in recovery. David, the same thing, identical thing. You basically crashed during the hardest race in the world, and you could have really, really failed in the aftermath by sticking your head in the ground, failing to speak up or speak out. And it shows a lot of dignity, man. You got $100,000 that's like thrown into the gutter, or $80,000 that's like, lit on fire. You're injured, you've been defeated, but instead of acting like you've been defeated, you act like you're prepared for the next challenge, and so that's I know a lot of other people are seeing that as well. And that's like, these are leaders, the work that you're doing, by bringing on people from all over the spectrum, to share their stories and to let them tell their stories. The more you do that, the more that the new entrants and new participants, emerge, and they kind of see this is actually a cool thing, and there's a lot to it. The future is really bright, and for a lot of us that have been around for 10 years, it's never been brighter.
Yeah, I agree. The just if anything else, right? I mean, there's so many people, so many that are involved with rally, but that I get messages, at least a couple times a week from people that are looking to get started, that are looking to, what's the first step? I don't know. I live in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where, we don't set up bikes for off-road rally here. We don't set up, we don't do these things, and the important thing is that the recipe is not actually that complicated. There's just so many resources out there. And I think what ends up happening is decision paralysis, right? There's so many people you could listen to. There's so many videos on YouTube. There's so many things about, and it's just this, wormhole that people get into. But I will always go back and reference like what Matthew Glade said when we talked, is just look at the used gear market. Go try and find a used Ico. Go try and find a used road book. And it's either coming out of Europe or, and it's an old unit that somebody had in the garage laying out. But otherwise that market is non-existent. So it's a one-way street. People are buying and getting ready and getting into this sport, and they're continuing with it. They're not dropping it off. Even all the guys that ran the Nora last year, that was a big one. They're doing it again this year. And even more people are getting interested. Oh, okay. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Oh, I actually love this. Never mind. And so I agree. The trajectory that the sport is on here stateside, in North America, is a good one.
For sure.
Cool. All righty, sir. Well, I will let you go. Let's see. What did we miss? Did we talk about everything? I mean, there's so many. I mean, Kove, you got Coast to Coast Rally, all that stuff. I mean, so it's good. I want to switch gears, and this is more on a personal side, but just really quick. Baja Rally School. You guys got one coming up?
Yeah, we're doing ours on May 19th through the 21st in San Quintin. Cool. And, we've got, a good set of signups and people that are already, that were signed up early on around Christmas and New Year's. And now is a good time to start, pushing and promoting that. It's affordable. I think it works out to like $800 for the 2.5 days. And I think you're $965 out the door with hotel. Mm-hmm. 2 nights of hotel and a full dinner, be sponsored by, I don't think they know it yet, but Baja Bound Insurance is sponsoring the dinner.
Nice.
I'll be sure to let them know. Yeah. That's a good thing. And so that's coming up, and it's, a couple 100 miles of stages. And, if you're on the fence about that, just about everybody that participated in the off-road or the Baja Rally School for ARO participated in the Baja Rally. So Steffi, Steve Varney, Tony Palandrani, the Russian guys, and so it's a great gateway, and there's no duplication and stuff. And so you'll find that up at BajaRallyMoto.com, hit the training tab, and it takes you right to the school thing. And it's something that we're going to be, promoting, make sure we have 20, 25 participants there. You can go there, and if you need to rent a bike, Poncho's got bikes available. That's out there. So, yeah, May 19th through the 21st. Nice. Our next thing.
All right. I'm going to be looking at the calendar and try and make that. And I think anybody looking to get into rally and then wants to go race a rally, the first goal should be go into rally school. Just make the first step is just going to a rally school, get a bike set up, or, if there's a rental that you can get a hold on, just, go out and experience that. And then the rally just will naturally follow after that.
Yeah. It's so simple, but we make it seem so complicated. It's a rally, training, and we're going to try to get Kove to just come. Kove loves himself some Baja. And so Gary from GPX Moto, he's down here right now on a different ride. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to try to get Kove to come to the rally school and have some bikes out there for all of us to, roost around on. Yeah. Nice. They're legitimate bikes. Yeah, they're not, they're absolutely legitimate bikes. And I see one in my future. Not sure exactly, but it's, I would love to have one to make Baja Rally stages with. And there's also to take on a little trip.
There you go. Put some miles on it. Nice. Well, awesome, sir. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I know you've been busy the last few weeks. I'm sure it's always a little bit of a turn and burn, but Awesome.
Yeah, we gave my son a Toby Price haircut. So my kids had this long hair, and I wanted to get home just for the haircut. So thank you for your show, Victor, and thanks for doing everything that you're doing. And can't wait to see who's going to be the next person up on the show to tell their story.
Yeah. We still got a few Dakar stories to get a hold of. So yeah, and we got a pretty good list of guests coming. So glad to be back on it.
Right on, bro. Thanks again.
All right, sir. Yeah, thank you. We'll talk to you. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
All right. See ya. All right. That was Scotty Bloom of Baja Rally talking about his experience down at the Coast to Coast Rally not this past week, but the week before. And absolutely awesome. Like I said, I do regret that I wasn't able to make the event and go down there. Originally was slated to do so, but with the rally calendar and all the events coming up and working with Rally Comp at these events, it definitely it gets a little hectic on the schedule. So I'm glad that it was a great event. Unfortunately, there was some tragedy there. It's tough to even say, like, what do you say about that? Other than I kind of mentioned is, it's somebody that was doing what they loved. They were passionate and, they paid the ultimate price. And, it was something that, I don't know. I'm going to cut it there because I think that it's kind of a difficult thing to talk about, right? Nobody likes to lose anybody in a sport, and especially in this sport because it's rally family. Everybody is very tight. Everybody knows everybody in this, and whether they've ridden it or not, but everybody speaks road book. And I think that is an important thing. So it's a unifying thing. But with that being said, it was definitely looked like a great event, from afar. I was at the Sonora Rally School getting handled there. It was great to see some new people there, some familiar faces there as well. And what they were doing at the event and at the school was awesome. A lot of people, I was really, really surprised. The dunes, I think, are one of the toughest things to navigate because there's generally no real marked courses there. It takes a lot of experience, but they had, it looks like they had a great time and nobody ran off into the sunset. I didn't have to send anybody messages to stop or anything like that. So it was great. It was a success. We had a lot of fun down there. The weather was a little cool, but it was a great time. So anyway, with that being said, guys, remember, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride. All right, that is a wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram, Chasing Waypoints _official, and, of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.